Now, Biden knows he's losing the youth vote, so he's resorting to handouts, bailing out even more student loan borrowers on your dime. Edward Lawrence has the details.
Well, Judge, this is a result of changing rules around the student loan forgiveness programs. The ultimate cost to taxpayers that was announced today would be $1.2 billion, and taxpayers will shoulder that. Ultimately, since President Biden got into office, he's now forgiven $138 billion in student loans. The Supreme Court ruled the president needed Congress to approve as much money as he wanted, so the administration went about changing the rules on a number of plans to piece together student loan forgiveness. Now, last week, the Congressional Budget Office director testified the rule changes will cost a lot more. Listen.
And he put in place the SAVE rule, so it's an income-driven repayment, and we've evaluated the fiscal impact of undoing that regulation, and that's that's more than $100 billion.
Yeah, I think 125-ish was what we talked about in our education committee visit that we had recently.
Added up, and President Biden is 2/3 to his goal of wiping out what the Federal Reserve estimates is $441 billion in student debt. The president saying today he found the workaround to the U.S. Supreme Court ruling and will keep going.
So there's a student loan program to be able to afford a college degree, but a lot of people didn't take advantage of it, and I wanted to make sure they did. The ability to repay, though, has become so burdensome. A lot of people can't even repay, and they try. They don't miss payments. They work like the devil every month to pay their bills.
All student debt forgiveness is ultimately paid by taxpayers. Judge?
Thank you. Now, Biden can cancel as much debt as he wants. His polls are still in the toilet, which is exactly where they belong. He's taking a beating on the border. 76% disapprove of his handling of immigration. And on top of that, only 32% of the voters are confident in Biden's mental and physical stamina to do the job. At last night's town hall, Trump says Biden's staff needs to take his keys away.
He's declined, and there's no question about it. But if you look at me, I feel, and I really mean this, and I would tell you, and I think you tell me too, because we've known each other a long time. If I felt diminished, okay, let's use a nice term. If I felt diminished or declined any way, I think I'd know it. And I think I'd say, I'm not running. Somebody should talk to him.
And some in the media see the writing on the wall, turning their eyes to the Democrat bench.
Regarding California, is this about coming up with a plan B for 2024? Does Gavin need to stand by?
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm looking at you.
He dodged that one, but his number two is waiting in the wings.
Typically, if he had to pass the powers to you for 1 second, 1 minute, heaven forbid, and, I ask with all due respect, but, are you capable? Are you ready to step into the role and do whatever the country would need?
I'm absolutely ready.
But she's going to be a tough sell. An NBC poll shows only 28% of Americans have positive feelings toward Kamala. Florida Congressman Byron Donalds sits on the Oversight Committee. He joins me now. All right, Congressman, I have two questions. The first one is going to be on Joe Biden. And the truth is that every time the guy comes out, you're worried he's going to stumble or fall or mumble or something's going to happen. And everybody keeps talking about a cognitive test. No, he doesn't want to take it. And no one's calling for the 25th Amendment. So do we just are we stuck with this for the next at least 8-9 months?
Well, Judge, it's good to be with you. And unfortunately, yes, I think we are stuck with this for a couple of reasons. One, Joe Biden is stubborn. He's putting himself above the country because you can't have a commander chief who just looks impaired like this. It's one thing to talk about the domestic issues that we're facing, the border being the number one issue in the country, and the fact that he's terrible at this job and he's actually hurting the American people. But even abroad, our adversaries see this. Putin sees this. Xi Jinping sees this. The mullahs in Iran, they see it too, yep. And they see weakness, and they're pushing all over the globe. This is not about Joe Biden. This is about our country. He should do the right thing and stand down. And if he won't do that, Kamala Harris needs to lead the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment, because the country does need coherent leadership. I don't think Kamala Harris will be a great president because the policies won't change. It'll be the same thing, but you got to have at least some level of coherence.
Do you think, Congressman, she would even do that?
No, I don't. I think she's just going to sit there and watch him continue to decline. But that's why I say this is not about Joe Biden or anybody else. It's about our country.
Right.
We deserve a president who actually looks the part on the world stage.
All right. And just very quickly on this student loan, I mean, the idea that the money just disappears, the taxpayers pay for the student loans for these kids, correct?
Yeah, it's correct. And this is an albatross around the country. Joe Biden wants to send, $100 billion out of the country for Ukraine and other parts of the world. But here in America, he's forgiven $400 billion of loans that should have been repaid. That's not fair to the American people who did not go to college or the ones who worked hard to repay their loans.
For sure. Congressman Byron Donalds, thanks for being with us.